Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and for some reason, I decided I don't want to watch any new movies for this weekend. I don't want to. That's just, that's just what it is. You know, it's funny because one of my favorite channels, and in fact I feature his channel on the front of my page, is Rob Ager, aka Collative Learning, aka he has a third channel, I believe. I can't remember. I think it's called Ager Bites. He does the same thing where he doesn't even review any new release movies hardly at all. He mostly just reviews the movies that he likes, and he says he reviews them because he wants to promote them. And for some reason, I really wanted to review this movie, The Breakfast Club. And I know a ton of people have reviewed it. I know that, you probably heard it all before. It's great! It's fantastic! Or, it's the worst! It's overrated! It's boring! Everyone has already said their opinion on Breakfast Club, except for me. There's just a ton of movies where, I'm the last one who still hasn't given his opinion on that or that or that. And so, I don't care. I'll plug all those holes. So, I don't know why I wanted to watch it. I just really wanted to. And it started off, and I thought, I remember watching, I've only seen this movie about 3 times. I watched it once, and then I watched it again in sociology class, a filler class in my senior year of high school, and then I watched it again, I think, last year or the year before. So I've only really seen it those few times, and I used to not really have a great opinion of it. There's this part in the movie where all the people in detention, they all sit around on the floor together and they talk about their emotions and they talk about their problems. And I always said, that's some fucking bullshit right there. Nobody is ever going to do that with each other. These different types of people, these types of people, they're terrible. They're terrible, terrible people. They're awful. They're, I don't know if it's different maybe because this is like a bigger city. It's a suburb group of kids. I don't know maybe if that's the reason why they're doing this, because I went to school in a small town with small town people, and let me tell you, never, never, ever, ever would this movie happen ever. And maybe that's the point. But I always thought that was really unrealistic to see Molly Ringworm, the popular girl, talking about her problems with someone like John Bender. It really seems like a fantasy. And I'm fine with that now. I've settled with that. I'm fine with that. I don't really think it's an issue anymore as much as I did back then. In fact, I would say I really love this movie now, and I was surprised by how much I loved it. I've always thought Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that's easily better than The Breakfast Club, easily. Because let's just be honest, guys. When I first heard the title The Breakfast Club as a little kid, I never would have predicted the movie was about this. I thought The Breakfast Club meant that they got together around breakfast time before school and that they would eat breakfast together and talk about their issues, and then they'd help each other throughout the rest of the movie. I never even thought it would be a couple of kids sitting in a detention in a library together all day. So I just think that's funny. I always thought it was something that it never was at all. They had this thing too in all the different schools where you could get breakfast in the cafeteria, And so I sort of thought, like, oh, is the movie where the kids get together in the cafeteria before school, they eat breakfast together, maybe one of them buys John Bender's breakfast each week, and then they talk about their issues. Like, that's what I thought the movie was. In fact, I think this is how retarded small towns are. I think that my elementary school had some sort of a thing called the Breakfast Club, where you could, I have no idea, but they definitely did. And so that furthered my misinterpretation of the title. And then, of course, you finally get to the movie, and it basically all takes place in this one room, this library. And that's something else that's very impressive. There's a ton of things about this movie that destroy other movies, including Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you could say. One of those things is that in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's basically a tour of Chicago. Okay, they go all over the place. You can just feel the pain in their feet that they feel after going through the whole movie, walking around this fucking gigantic monster city. Whereas with this movie, they're in this one room for the most part. One room. And there's just something so impressive about movies that take place in one location. Not really in terms of like, oh, I'm impressed filmmaking-wise, but just impressed story-wise to where it never gets old. Like, I could have watched 8 more hours of this movie. I could have watched 10 more hours of this movie of just them sitting in this library, talking to each other, having fun. And one of the things that they do in the film that I really love is that throughout the film, it all starts off with them sitting in these tables, at these tables in the library, and throughout the movie, they mess with things in the background. Like, you have this big, wide picture of this library. And then in the movie, as it goes on, they go over there. They go over there. They go up there. They go down there. And they mess with all the things in the background to where it's like, it makes it feel like a bigger world than it actually is, because normally in these types of films where people are in one room, they don't really mess with the environment a lot. They don't really mess with the things around them. You know, it kind of feels like those early 2000s video games where you're in a room and you can't touch things and you can't, like, oh, I'm fighting someone and I can't tear this axe off the wall to kill them. Like, that's just really shitty, isn't it? And they don't have that here. And here, they mess with everything. Like, they go upstairs, they sit on the stairs, you know. It looks like a very fun place, actually. You have, like, this staircase, and it just looks like so much fun to go up there and, like, sit on the stairs and look down and hold on to the metal bar. You know, it looks so much fun. It's such a simple thing, but it looks so much fun. The movie has, even though you could say it's a complex film, as you adjust your critic glasses, it's a very simplistic film. There's a lot of simplistic themes, simplistic characters. They're not like, they don't have some sort of a soap opera story. They're just simple. They're simple, and the movie even makes it a point to tell you, you know, you could just say it's the brain, the jock, the basket case, the criminal. You know, you could just say that there are these stereotypes, and you could, you know, it's kind of true in a way, but there is a little bit more to them. And so throughout the film, you learn more about them. You learn what exactly makes them unique and what makes them similar to each other, because they all have a lot in common. That's what I really love about this film, is that it sort of feels like an anti-high school movie. Because there's a lot of high school movies and they have the same old thing. The evil jocks, the evil cheerleaders, and the nice guys. Okay, that's high school movies to a T. And in order to make a good high school movie, you gotta make it more complex than that. You have to have more to it than that. And I really love how this movie says, fuck that. Fuck high school movies. We're gonna make a movie about society. That just sounded so pretentious. But whatever, I don't care. This movie wouldn't care. The people who made this movie would say, who cares? Everyone in this movie learns that they should all be friends. Nobody should be in these cliques. They shouldn't fight against each other. They shouldn't do things because of their parents. And there's also a very strong undercurrent of bad parenting, of parents who, you want to talk about a bad version of this movie, Rebel Without a Cause. That movie was trying to do the same type of thing, where it's like, everyone has bad parents, so that's why they turn out bad. This movie does it so much more effectively, where you don't really have to have that hit someone on top of the head with a hammer type of attitude when dealing with the story. There's this part at the end where you see, like, Brian's father, and he's sitting in the car, and he's got, like, these big glasses and this saggy, like, just the skin and the hair, this, like, messy, gross, pencil leg color hair, and you can just sense, you can feel the emotion that comes from Brian getting in the car with his shitty father. And you can feel like, that I can imagine what it's like at his house. In fact, earlier on in the movie, Bender reenacts what it's like at Brian's house. And he's right, almost. He's almost right. But there's more to it. There's always more to the story. But it sort of tells you right there that you could do that with these people. You can make your own deductions, in a sense. But, it shouldn't be the definitive thing. Like, just because that guy's a jock, that doesn't mean he's terrible. The thing is, though, the one thing that I have to say, which is hard for me to say, because after watching this movie this last time, I think it's a masterpiece. It's really hard for me to say anything discouraging to this movie, especially since all the losers and SJWs have dragged this movie through the mud and shit on its name, shit on everything it stood for, because it doesn't tell you to be a perpetual victim like they like to be. So, but the one thing is, though, is that there are some pretty bad people like this, like in this movie, but they're bad. Okay, like there's some really bad people, and they don't want to change. They don't want to see what's underneath. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to sit around in the library with you and have a discussion about how, poor Brian tried to commit suicide. Who cares? They wouldn't care. In fact, they would turn it around and make it all about them. Oh, you would do that? Ew, why would you want to do that? Nah. Like everything, these people, the reason why they're in these cliques is because they're just similar types of personalities who can just, it's like an echo chamber. Did I just say echo chango? It's like an echo chamber, okay? You have a group of people, they all can just say the same old things over and over. You have that in Hollywood nowadays, where you have the same types of pretentious fucks and their little shitty Marvel movie syndrome. You want to talk about Marvel fans, the way they all say, everything Marvel does is amazing. or the Better Call Saul fanboys. Everything Better Call Saul does is amazing. It's an echo chamber, and these people, they don't want to hear anything different. They don't want any conflicting opinions. In fact, just talking about Better Call Saul, somebody could give Better Call Saul an 8 out of 10. It's going to, on IMDb, it's going to get 10 out of 200 something votes to say that that review is helpful. And that's something that's really bad, because IMDb chooses to put the reviews, they choose to order the reviews from helpful to least helpful. And so the honest reviews get pushed all the way to the bottom. And then at the top, you have a bunch of fanboy fucks who say, 10 out of 10, the best thing ever. It's the Ozymandias of Better Call Saul. And they never want to hear anything different, and they never want to have any challenge. They never want to have any sort of discussion. They just want the same old, just this comfort, this ugly, fake comfort. Like at the beginning of the movie when, what's the jock's name again? What's the jock's name? Like, because the Brian's the nerd, Bender's the criminal, you got Allison, the Molly Ringworm, I can't remember the jock's name. But probably one of the most disturbing parts of the movie is at the beginning of the movie when the jock is in his car with his dad, and his dad says, "Yeah, you were just messing around. The only problem is you got caught. You know, you don't want to miss another meet, or you don't want to miss your next match." And it's like, oh God, like that just really made me uncomfortable. It really, it was like, ugh, because you think like he's just messing around, like, ugh, that is just. That really made me uncomfortable right there, that line. Just that one line adds so many layers to the film that it changes too. The meaning changes throughout the film. Because at the beginning of the film, you probably think, oh, the jock, he just did something, and the evil faculty said, let's give the jock a detention, because they do that too. But no, he did something really, really evil. He did something typical of a jock to do, and he deserved to get a detention for sure. In fact, I would say out of all of them, he is probably the one who deserved to get a detention the most. And then Bender second, and then third would be Molly Ringworm, her fucking entitled ass. We will talk all about, don't worry guys, you think I'm going to let Molly Ringworm get off? Well, maybe. No, you think I'm going to let Molly Ringworm get off of, get away from consequences? You guys want to talk about consequence culture? We're going to talk about fucking Molly Ringworm, okay? Because I don't like Molly Ringworm. I hate Molly Ringworm. There is nobody more in a John Hughes film you guys can throw at me. You can throw the jocks, you can throw the bullies, you can throw anyone from any John Hughes film. You can throw Cameron's father at me. You can throw the pedophile at me. You can throw Edward Rooney at me. And I am going to say, you know what? At least the pedophile is not Molly Ringworm, okay? Because there is nothing worse than a ringworm, okay? And that's what you get in this film. You get a ringworm, okay? So anyways, how did I even get here? What's the map? Like, I gotta have like a map with me or someone next to me, like maybe a ghost especially, who's got like a piece of paper, and there's like, okay, you were here at this point, you said this, and then you went to there and said that, and like, like draw me a map of like what I was saying to get to the point of talking about throwing pedophiles at me and then throwing ringworms at me. I mean, I just don't understand it. Sometimes I really go off somewhere on a weird direction. This movie, one of the similarities of it between another movie and this would be Fear and Desire. Stanley Kubrick's Fear and Desire. That film, it didn't take place in any certain war, any certain time period, any sort of location. It just took place on this generic island in quote unquote any war scenario. And what that was trying to do was just trying to say, I am making a statement about all war with this movie. In the same way that this movie, I don't really think it wanted to be exclusive to Chicago and wanted to be like, oh, this is a Chicago movie about the suburban kids in Chicago. I think it really wanted to be a universal film. And I think that that's where it succeeds, because there's a lot of emotion that comes with this movie of just seeing like the ugly reality of how all these people could be friends. All these people could be buddies. They could be in clubs together. They talk about how academic clubs are different than social clubs. And it's like, what? Like, that's fucking retarded. Like, who the fuck says that? Oh, yeah. Molly Ringworm says that. It is time. It is time, Molly Ringworm. You cannot hide any longer. And I know I sound weird right now, but there's one thing I hate, and that is what Molly Ringworm has done to John Hughes. Not only in life, but in death. Because what happened, if you guys don't know, is this bitch, she betrayed him. She was a part of what was called the Brat Pack. If you guys don't know what that is, I don't know how to describe it. It's the Brat Pack. You got that person, that person, that person, and they all fit together and they all work well together in movies. And it's like, Tarantino has his friends he likes to put in his films. Rube Zombie has his friends he likes to put in his films. They're not the Brat Pack, but they're packs of their own. This group of people, it was a great thing, this group of people. And when you find a group of people like that in movies, you want to put them together as much as possible. That's what the studios used to do in the olden days, is that they would say, oh, that person works really well with that other person, so let's put them in 10 romance movies together. And you know what? It works. It really works. Like, for instance, earlier on this year, I watched Duel in the Sun, which was really good. And then The Portrait of Jenny, which was a masterpiece. And both of those had Jennifer Jones, the sexy tortilla Jennifer Jones, and Joseph White Bread Cotton. Okay? Both of them had that duo. That's why both of them work a little bit, because in both of them you get to see like different versions of them interacting with each other, and they work so well together that it makes it even more special than it would have, like, oh, that random guy is with her in Duel in the Sun, and then Joseph is with her in Portrait of Jenny and nothing else. Molly Ringworm, though, John Hughes, he wanted to make more movies with her. I mean, he made Pretty in Pink was all about her. He said, Molly Ringworm, I am going to make a movie just for you. I mean, guys, do you know how hard it is to make a movie? It's not fun. It's not an enjoyable experience, except for the acting part and the writing part and the watching it part. Those are fun parts. Every other step, every other part of the process of making a movie is a fucking nightmare. And John Hughes made Pretty in Pink all for her. He said, what do you want to do, Molly Ringworm? And she said, I really love the song Pretty in Pink. And John Hughes said, okay, I'm going to make Pretty in Pink the movie. Boom! What do you think of that? I'm going to make it all about you. I'm going to have a whole generation of people worship you and say, I want to look like that twerpy little redhead girl, Molly Ringworm. You know, I mean, he gave her everything. He gave her the universe. And in return, she said, fuck you. And she stopped being in movies for him because she got really full of herself, as she probably already was before he started working with her. And it's really sad because you can see that, you know, his later movies, they're not that great. You know, they're not great at all, actually. They're kind of bad. And it's because I think that he lost some of that soul that he had in the beginning because of things like that, because of losing somebody who you thought would be like, you know, she would be like his most important tool in his arsenal. You know, she gets to get paid a lot of money, she gets to star in films, and he gets to become famous. He gets everything he wants. It's a win-win situation. And instead, she throws it all away because she's entitled and because she's a brat in real life. And then he dies. John Hughes dies, and that's sad. Rest in peace, John Hughes. And then what does Molly Ringworm do after that? What does this bitch do after this man, this talented, what would you call him? A master filmmaker, not a masturbator. That's somebody different. Obviously I am, but not right now. Molly Ringworm, she disparages his name on a daily basis. Every chance this bitch gets to disparage his name, she takes it. Every opportunity she gets to say, I think that movie's outdated. I think that the Breakfast Club should raise an important conversation about toxic masculinity and homophobia. You know, because they say the word fag in the movie. Well, guess what, folks? Fag, 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 faggity, faggot, fat, faggot, faggot, faggot. Faggity, fag, 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 fag. Okay? Fuck off with that shit. Anyone can say whatever they want. Freedom of speech, fuck you. Okay? That's what I have to say about that. So fuck off with that shit, Molly Ringworm. And you know what else this bitch has to say? She says the movie's bad because John Bender sexually harasses Molly Ringworm several points in the movie. So that makes the movie an important part of the Me Too movement. And so that's what it was all about. It was all about this bitch, this ugly, nasty ringworm bitch, getting her 5 minutes of fame so that she can be a part of the Me Too movement. Okay? Let's talk about the reality of this film. The truth about the sexual harassment that goes on between John Bender and Molly Ringworm. There's no such thing in this movie as sexual harassment. There is no sexual harassment in the entire fucking film. Okay? That is what I have to say. Because if you want to talk about that, what about the time where Molly Ringworm makes fun of Brian for being a virgin? They all mess with each other for being virgins or not being virgins. What about the time where Allison starts talking about her quote-unquote graphic sexual history? You could call that sexual harassment too, because nobody asked to hear about it, so therefore, it's harassment. Okay? You could say anything that happens at all in this entire movie is sexual harassment. And these fucking miserable freakazoid SJWs are going to go along with it because they're miserable victims. They're miserable losers. Because here's the thing. SJWs, they have something in common with jocks. They have something similar that they believe with these fucking people that they hate, these toxic men. You know, the football players, the wrestlers. Wah! You know, they have something very similar in the sense you have this character of John Bender. Okay, he's a fantastic character. He's a badass. He's a Chad. He's a fucking he's a gangsta. He is a 1980s gangsta. He is a gangsta before gangstas were gangstas. He is the truest definition of the word gangsta. And on the right side, you have the old weirdos who would call John Bender a criminal. That thug, that teenage thug. Nah, I don't like him. And on the left, you have the SJWs. What are they going to call him? A sexual harassing criminal. So in other words, they're not so different. You know, they're very similar. And that's one of their similarities. Okay, because you have Molly Ringworm. She is going to disparage John Bender because even though he is an incredible character, there's nothing wrong with this character except for the fact that he gets abused at home. I guess there's something, you know, oh, who cares about the fact that he gets abused because he commits sexual harassment. Like, yeah, okay. Wrong. Because here's the thing. To just say, and that's the whole point of the movie. That's the whole point of the movie. That is how retarded Molly Ringworm is. That is how stupid she is, guys. She is so dumb. She's older than me. I'm 23. I'm going to be 24 in December. And she doesn't even understand a movie that is old. That is from the 80s. That is not, it's not old, but you know what I mean. She's been around for how many years since that movie has come out? How many years? I mean, these kids, they only had 7 hours and 54 minutes to think about their actions in detention. How long has this ugly, raggedy-ass bitch Molly Ringworm had to think about what the Breakfast Club means? How long has she had to figure out what this movie means? How many times do you think she's seen the movie? Like 1,000,000 times? Hopefully so. Hopefully she has tried at least. She has attempted. Hopefully. Please tell me, someone, that this bitch has put any effort into understanding this movie. Because clearly she doesn't understand a damn thing about this film. If the only thing she can take away from this film is that John Bender commits sexual harassment, that's the only thing you can take away? I mean, the movie tells you that people are much more than the labels that you put on them. They're much more, you know, even Molly Ringworm, maybe there's more to her than meets the eye. Hopefully. You know, I mean, that's the whole point of the movie. And this bitch, she just says, oh, he's a sexual harasser. Wah! The movie doesn't look good anymore after the Me Too movement. That's what I have to say about Molly Ringworm. And so, fuck her. Okay, I just can't stand it. Every single time I see a fucking article pop up with, The Breakfast Club is problematic. Here's why. By Molly Ringworm. You know what, Molly Ringworm? You wouldn't be shit without John Hughes. You wouldn't be shit without The Breakfast Club. And you wouldn't be shit without Pretty in Pink. You know why? Because you were the ugliest bitch that has ever been in a John Hughes movie. I mean, let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest. Because that's what this movie tells you, too. It tells you to be honest. You got Allison in this movie. Ooh la la. Allison is the sexiest. Oh my god. That gothic look that she has, the eyeliner. She is smoking in this movie. I have always thought that ever since I saw her as a kid. I was like, wow, who is that mysterious, smoking beauty? And then you have her friend, Annie Potts, in fucking Pretty in Pink. Boom! Boom! Bazookas! Okay, perfection. Even Christy fucking Swanson, who shows up at the end of Pretty in Pink to save Ducky from this bitch Molly Ringworm, from breaking his heart and destroying his life. Christy Swanson comes to the rescue. That big blonde, the blonde hair, perfection. Okay, I mean perfection. Perfection. Christy Swanson and Pretty in Pink, perfection. And then Sloane and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Whoa. Okay, that's all I gotta say about Sloane. Sloane, there is the raccoon again. I just see a raccoon staring at me right in the eyes, and he does not, he looks starving. Why is he staring at me in the eyes? Did I wake him up with my Breakfast Club review? That is bizarre. Okay, I hope that's not, you guys think that's John Hughes reincarnated? Maybe it is. Could you guys just imagine if you were accidentally doing a Breakfast Club review in front of like the reincarnation of John Hughes, and then at some point you start breaking the news about what Molly Ringworm has said, and you just see this raccoon staring at you, and it's like, oh shit, it's Mr. Hughes himself. And you know, they talked about reincarnation in the Ferris Bueller's Day Off script. If you guys wanted to know the truth, I read the Ferris Bueller original script. They talk about reincarnation in that, so it's not very far off to think that John Hughes, maybe he is that raccoon right there. He looks, he's hungry. He's hungry. He's nibbling on something. He's got some snackums. And, yeah, I guess it's Mr. Hughes come to join us. You know, something really funny happened the other day, similar to this, where I watched Groundhog Day. And then the very next day, guess what I see? I see a groundhog sitting on the porch staring at me. And then it runs away, and then I found it, and it was just staring at me in the shed. And I was like, what the hell? We have never seen a groundhog before in our yard ever until I watched Groundhog Day 1 week ago. That's how weird that was, okay? So it isn't very far off to think that could be John Hughes. In fact, guys, do you want me to interview John Hughes? Let's interview him. Okay, come on. We gotta interview him. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Oh, he's running away. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes. Let's try to find him. Let's see. We gotta make this video worth something more than a couple of laughs and a couple of likes and a comment saying that you should review something else. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes. I guess, I don't know. I couldn't find him. Sorry, guys. He didn't want to be interviewed after his heart was broken by the news of Molly Ringworm's ugly betrayal. Somehow something uglier than her face, her ugly betrayal. So, let's get back in the car. Oh, that was sad. I really wanted to interview him. Anyways, oh yeah, we were talking about all the sexy Hughes babes, okay? Then so you have Sloane. Sloane, she is like number one. I mean, her hair alone, that swirly hair, whoa, wow. But then you have Some Kind of Beautiful or Some Kind of Wonderful, whatever that's called. You got Mary Stuart Masterson with that punk rock hair, the drummer girl, the fucking drummer girl, when she teaches the main guy, Eric Stoltz, how to kiss. Holy shit. I have never been more turned on by a movie scene than that scene. Like, I was so, like, oh my god, that was the hottest scene in movie history. Her character, number one. And then you have Leah Thompson, the legendary Leah Thompson, okay? So all these people, all of these babes, let's just admit, Molly Ringworm is below them all. In personality and looks-wise. So therefore, Molly Ringworm is destroyed. I have just destroyed Molly Ringworm, and now I'm going to move on. Because I don't want to make this review all about Molly Ringworm and her ugly betrayal and her ugly disrespect for John Hughes. So then you have the jock. You know, the jock, I already talked about him. I already talked about the nerd. I really love the scene where they have the lunches, the different lunches, and you see how different everyone's lunch is, and like the sushi, and it was funny too how John Bender had never heard of sushi, and you know, it must have been very foreign back then, sushi, the idea of sushi. You know, it reminds me a lot of an Alfred Hitchcock's best movie, Frenzy, how Alfred Hitchcock had a fear of foods, and one of his fears was fucking running eggs. And so he showed eggs in the movie, and he made it look gross. And then he showed, of all things to call gross, a margarita. Alfred Hitchcock was scared of margaritas. And so, like, it reminded me of that, of like, ooh, it's a foreign food, so that means it's scary. And that's what it was similar like to me. And so it was funny to see that, because that was a little dated thing. In terms of just the fact that, you know, everyone knows about sushi now. You know, everyone does. So I guess you could just say it makes it funnier. And other than that, the nerd Brian, he's really good. You know, all of the acting in this movie is phenomenal. A-plus performances all around. John Bender, I don't even need to talk about him. I mean, he's legendary. He's one of the greatest movie characters of all time. He's so cool, and he's so unique, and he's like the main guy in Rebel Without a Cause, but he's actually cool. You know, the main guy in Rebel Without a Cause, he's like a loser. You know, he's weird. You know, he's so overly emotional and such a crybaby. And, you know, John Bender, he would have beat the shit out of James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. Sorry to say. And then Allison, of course, she's fantastic. You know, one of the things that I couldn't remember from back when I watched it before was how she made these little squeaking noises where she'd go like... It was so funny. It was like a cartoon, like a Super Smash Brothers type of character. She'd go like... I thought that was a funny little touch that she added. And one of the things, though, that I hate about the movie that I still don't like is the part at the end where she gets a makeover. And on one hand, now I kind of see it a little differently, because I just know how disgusting and evil these types of popular people are. And, you know, it's kind of nice in a sense that Molly Ringworm, she gave this really nice gesture to Allison by giving her a makeover. But at the same time, it's really strange because nobody else in the entire movie has to do anything to change their appearance, to do anything to change who they are. except for just admitting truths. Like, Molly Ringworm, she had to admit truths about how she's a retarded bitch. And, John Bender had to admit truths about his home life. Brian had to admit truths about how everyone thinks that because he's smart, he doesn't have any pressure, but he has so much pressure, he wanted to commit suicide. And then, of course, the jock, he's pressured by his disgusting, evil, abusive father. That's bad enough in itself. But Allison, she had to do something to change. And it was not something that John Hughes wanted to do. And it was another part, in my opinion, of the demise of John Hughes. Because the studios forced him to make over Allison. And I think that that's it's probably the stupidest thing in the entire film. The fact that this hot, smoking, beautiful, smart, intelligent, funny, interesting, unique person is forced by this big studio to change her looks at the end so that she looks like a quote-unquote normal girl. But wait a second, I thought the whole message of the movie was that they were all the same even though they weren't the same. So I don't get that. Like, why should she have had to change her appearance? I just think that that's wrong. And I really hate that. And it makes me want to just, it's a huge turnoff when she walks out and she's made over and she's got like a pink tutu on like the Toxic Avenger, and she looks like she's gonna be a ballerina. She's gonna be like that mouse ballerina character, the cartoon mouse ballerina. I can't remember what she's called. And it's like, oh wow. Like, everyone else in the movie gets to stay the same. Even the piece of shit faculty guy, the teacher, he gets to stay the same. The janitor gets to stay the same. The parents get to stay the same. Everyone in the entire universe gets to stay the same, except for Allison. And they didn't do the same for Brian either. Like, they didn't give Brian a quote-unquote makeover to make him look like a quote-unquote normal guy. So I really hate that aspect of the film, the fact that Allison was forced to get a makeover so that she looks so much uglier than she did. She's not ugly. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, they took her down. Like, she was a 10 out of 10 when she had the gothic look going on, but when she has the ballerina look going on, she's like a 6.5. And I think that that's just such a shame, the fact that, that completely undermines the entire message of the movie. And my only other criticism is, at the beginning of the movie, they're playing Don't You Forget About Me, the fantastic A-plus song, so much better than the Pretty in Pink. More like Pretty in Vomit. They're playing that song, and then all of a sudden, the screen shatters, and it just breaks into a million pieces like glass. And I guess it's like to symbolize the breaking of barriers between people and breaking the layers between people's personalities. I don't know. But it felt really 80s. It felt like a very dated effect, and it really didn't fit. It just came out of nowhere. Like, that's something you'd see in a horror movie, like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. You'd see, like, the glass shattering, and it flies at you, and then it says, Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 13, Freddy's Nightmare on Sheepville Street thing, Part .5, Part 11 cents, starring that one person who goes to every single horror convention in history. Because if you guys are Nightmare on Elm Street fans, they get a lot of love at conventions. Like, there are so many conventions where I check and like every single guest is from a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It blows my mind. I guess dreams really do come true. Nightmares don't come true, dreams come true. So I didn't like those two things. Other than that, it's a perfect film. And before I give this movie a rating in terms of food, I just wanted to talk about one last element of the film that I really think is something important to talk about, and that is the teacher. The teacher in this movie, Mr. Something, I can't remember what his name is. I really think that he is an underrated element of the film. He is such a fantastic actor, and the performance that he gave, where he's evil one minute, he's kind of sympathetic a little bit the other minute. He's very layered and he's very complex. Like, you can tell he has this entire backstory that we don't even know, and you can just feel it by like the stuff that he does. You can tell that he knows some things that these kids don't know about themselves. But the really sad part is just how evil he is, and how you realize that this guy, he's a dime a dozen. There's so many people in the school faculties all over the place as we speak. SJWs, any type of person, conservatives, any types. And they're just as evil as this guy is in this film. And they don't want to understand these kids. And that's the big message of the movie, too. That's another big message, is that adults, instead of understanding how kids change, they don't want to understand, and they just want to pretend like the kids are still the same and that they're the problem. And so you can see why a lot of problems in society happen, why a lot of people in society grow up to do what they do. Even school shootings, you can see why school shootings happen. You can see why anything in the world happens. This is a universal film. I really think that it's an important film. It's a very important film. It's so much more important than Shang-Chi. It's so much more of a triumph than Shang-Chi or fucking Black Widow or whatever next SJW movie that comes out that they say is so important for my representation. Prey, the new Predator movie. This movie, The Breakfast Club, is so much more important than that film will ever be, because it's a universal film, and it tells you to judge people based on the content of their character rather than what's on the outside. Unlike all these new movies that tell you that you should judge people entirely on what's on the outside, and what's on the inside doesn't matter, because it never mattered to begin with. We're going backwards, and so people need to watch this movie so that they can go forwards. And another thing too is, it is very surprising that the movie never got a sequel, because I really kind of wanted, I don't know, is it just me? I really kind of wanted to see them in school together the next day. Like, I know that wasn't the point of the movie. I know that obviously we weren't supposed to get to see that. But there's just a part of my curiosity that makes me want to see them in school, interacting after that or before that. So that was something I was sad that I didn't get to see. But yeah, overall, I would rate this movie. One of the other things about the film is that all the kids, they have like these uniforms, like these stereotypical uniforms for who they are as people. Like, Molly Ringworm, she has this pink outfit on and this skirt. And then the Allison, she has like these black clothes on. And then the jock, he has this like blue tank top on. And, they all look like they're wearing uniforms almost, but they're not. And so I really think that the movie it's sort of like a deceptive thing, because obviously, even though they're all wearing these uniforms and they're different, they're all the same on the inside. And I think that my rating in terms of food should reflect that. And I really think, after spending so much time thinking about this movie and rewatching it and really letting the movie happen rather than trying to sort of insert some of my own personal experiences onto the movie, which is something that too many people do nowadays, and it kind of destroys film and television, because not everything is about you. Like all the people who are going to complain that I said the word fag. Oh no, I said a bad word. Wah! Those are people who think that everything is about them. Not everything is about you. And so I would give this movie a rating that I only reserve for movies that are special. And that is spaghetti. Spaghetti is my favorite food of all time. It's always been my favorite food ever since I was about 4. From years 2 to 3, my favorite food was chicken dinner, which was something different. But then as soon as I had spaghetti and I started to like spaghetti at age 4, I have never gone back, and I'll never go and change what my favorite food is. Spaghetti will always be my favorite food. Guaranteed. So anyways, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment. Tell me how upset you are. Tell me how offended you are. I love the comments. I don't get them anymore because not many people watch certain reviews, especially the ones where I say whatever I want to say and I don't hold back. I really miss the comments where people are like, I'm so offended. You said a bad word. Wah! Please, somebody be offended, please. I just want to see one person offended, and I will feel so much better for the entire day. So, goodbye, everybody. See you soon. Get offended. Fuck off.